welcome, Joe Justice. Let me briefly introduce you to the crowd. I don't think that you need a. I love your cap, by the way. It's just a great look. Yeah, thanks. Ooh, sharp. Joe Justice is one of the, die anderen müssen sich muten, bitte, weil sonst immer, wenn Sie zum Beispiel wie der Roger gerade etwas lauter lachen, dann kommen Sie in den Fokus. So please everybody mute so that we always see the wonderful picture of Joe Justice. Joe Justice is one of the pioneers of hardware agile. WIKISPEED, maybe you've heard of that. He builds a car out of thin air in, I don't know, 8 hours, 2 hours, 2 days, whatever. So faster than everybody else. He has been at Tesla for obvious reasons. He's a very active member of the community. Sebastian, right now I have you in focus. Is that correct? Did you lock for the video? Did you lock on Joe? Okay, doke. And I have to tell you that it's really hard for Joe to be here because he's in California right now and it's late at night. It's midnight, and he said this is really brutal. So I thought we'd just give him a warm welcome and we introduce. Please join in everywhere. Joe Justice, Joe Justice, Joe Justice, Joe Justice. Yeah, I love this. Joe Justice. Ladies and gentlemen, please have a warm welcome for Joe Justice. Joe, the stage is yours.
Sasha, that's got to be the most fun way I've ever had a chance to connect with the community. Wow, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, part of BarkCamp. How's the sound coming through? Is it okay?
It's okay. It's nice.
Perfect. Thank you. Where to even start? We just have 30 minutes together, including question and answer. What I'll say is, if you're interested in something and want to ask something, please do it anytime. Please don't wait. That'll be more fun. First, what I'd like to show, let's see if I can share a window. Does anyone see welcome to Scrum Game? Did that share? Does anyone see welcome to Scrum Game?
Yes. Yeah, we see it.
Okay. I've gamified whatever it was I was trying to teach anybody, and I still do teach Scrum Master courses, but I threw out almost all the content that I thought I knew after working for Elon Musk. It completely changed what I thought I knew when I went into that company in 2020. So all the courses I do now are games, a series of islands, they're comic books, etc. What I call a Scrum Master class is now actually more about mob development. That's actually the primary focus, is mob and self-organization around mob, which some of you have probably done when you attend an open space or lean coffee and then have work sessions instead of just talk. That's actually very similar to the way Tesla works. And I've never seen that in such a large company. There's 110,000 employees and then 500,000 suppliers. And no one tells them what to do. There's an agenda, like a big open space agenda, and anyone on their phone can propose a topic. So I rewrote what I call a Scrum Master class to be mostly about mob and introduce lean coffee. Then the level 2 class is also a series of games. You fight your way up clouds to run your own small business. Then there's virtual site visits to real companies, including WIKISPEED, that's my own company, and to Tesla and other companies where I've worked. Then the culmination is they've already done mob, then they do open space, but not just for conversation, but for work organization. And then that takes us to the executive course, which is the most playful one of all. It's as close to Super Mario Brothers as I can get without copyright infringement. And the result is, if people complete this course, they're basically leading like the way Elon Musk led the company when I was there. Now, I'll absolutely be humble enough to say Elon continues to evolve. So I'm sure his leadership style is not exactly the same as it was 2 years ago when I was in the company. But at least 2 years recent, there's a gamified version that does it. What I'd like to talk to us about at Bar Camp, and I hope generate conversation about, is what I actually learned at Tesla. So I just showed what I think we Agilists are familiar with, things like open space and things like mob development or group development or ensemble development. We've probably at least heard of those things. Tesla and all the Musk companies don't directly use open space, and they don't directly use mob, but those practices are the most similar I've ever seen to what the Musk companies do use. So if you were comfortable with an open space agenda of working groups that ran as mob, that'd be very similar to the way the Musk companies actually operate. For how they actually operate, that's these 12 hexagons here, which I've posted on YouTube in different ways before, but this is what I'd like to talk to Bar Camp about. You have basically mob development, group development running on modules, partitioned pieces of hardware, like the heat pump of a Tesla or the rocket pump of a SpaceX Falcon rocket. Management has been replaced by software. It's AIs. Some of you have seen that in talks I've had a chance to give, so that's not a shock to some of you. You have no boss. Data is your boss. Then manufacturing changes the hardware parts, like large, significant hardware parts, like the charge ports of the car, with the software that manages it as often as every 2 days. These are projects that are 2.5 years in any other company. And then Tesla doesn't directly call it open space, but you do self-allocate to whichever project you'd like. Now, under that, for Bar Camp, I have some bonus information for us to talk about. And anything that I showed, I'm ready to talk about if you want to. Managers, there are managers for legal reasons. Who your manager might be rotates multiple times per day to keep the company feeling flat. So you don't own anybody, you don't own anything. Manager training is available to anyone on apps on their phones, so anyone can volunteer to be a manager. When you're a manager, you don't make any more money. You only have more legal responsibility. If something goes wrong while you're a manager, you're the one who goes to court to help explain what happened. And so you volunteer for that additional accountability. The salaries are all the same. You have no more power. You don't even get to tell anyone what to do. You just take responsibility if something goes wrong. Most manager approvals are automated by software. Tesla AI is actually very good. Some of you just saw more about that today with the Neuralink event and the Tesla Semi event. So what does that mean for leaders? Leaders are model contributors in the group work, in the mobs, doing the work. That's what a leader is. You are someone who is writing software. You are someone who is welding. You are someone who is unloading trucks. And in fact, Elon Musk does all of those things. I'll zoom in. Elon Musk retweeted one of my presentations. I was really happy about that because, how can I say it? I'm actually not sure of the impact I had in Tesla or not. I arrived, I was told I was the best interview they'd ever had. I was hired as the world's expert in agile hardware, and everything was already so much faster than I'd ever seen anywhere. I had very little impact on the company. I maybe brought 3 things. I mostly learned in Tesla. So I was thrilled Elon retweeted me. You know, I wasn't actually sure of my value to the company, but thank you, Elon. And what I did is I showed these 12 steps up above, or earlier version of them, right about a year ago, and an early definition of JODX or digitalization. And Elon could have said, he could have amplified any point, like we don't have managers, or our artificial intelligence is so good it does purchase approvals for you, or we use extreme manufacturing, or all work is group work and self-organized, He could have amplified any of these potentially radical topics. And instead, what Elon chose to focus on is that the company is flat, nearly completely flat. And that's exactly my experience. Elon wrote, everyone eats the same food, uses the same restrooms, etc. No executive chef or of the other ivory tower stuff. There shouldn't be this workers versus management two-class system. Everyone is a worker. That's exactly what I experienced when I was there. Elon works the factory floor, drilling metal, unloading trucks. There's no separate parking lot. There's no different bathroom for anyone. Leaders are model contributors. In fact, there's not room for anything else. There's no one who's not in the mobs. There's no one who's not in the group work. So if someone wanted to be the wealthiest person in the world, you wanted to be Elon Musk, who owns no house and works over 100 hours a week and doesn't have a Gucci belt, just wears black jeans and work shoes. If you wanted to be potentially the hardest working billionaire in the world, maybe, here's what I've observed. I think this is how to be Elon Musk. Generate as much working capital as you can. Use 100% of it to execute on your mission. Work 12 hours a day with anyone who will work with you. Own no house, sleep in the factory. Elon Musk wrote, my proceeds from PayPal were 180 million. I put 100 million into SpaceX, 70 million into Tesla, and 10 million into Solar City. I had to borrow money for rent. I think that's exactly right. When Elon makes a ton of money, he's different than most of us. He doesn't even own a house. Elon doesn't buy a boat. He doesn't have a boat. Elon just keeps working. And the money Elon uses is put directly into the companies. In fact, it's all still stock. He doesn't even withdraw it. He hasn't taken a paycheck, like any payment, in 10 years. Like, there's stock. He flies on a company plane. So there's this great luxury plane. But that way he can be CEO of 6 companies concurrently now. And the Musk leadership strategy, I think I figured it out while I was working there. I definitely didn't write this strategy, but I think it makes sense to me. I think I understand it now, especially having worked in the companies and founded and operated the Agile program there. What Elon does when Elon works in a company, first, I don't think Elon could do what Elon does as an employee. I think Elon would be fired. He's way too aggressive. I don't think Elon would survive. I mean, Herbert Diess tried something like Elon in Volkswagen, and Herbert got fired. And I think that's what would happen to Elon too. So Elon's first step is to align the decision makers, the actual owners, the board, or the board above the board. He tried to do that with Twitter, and the Twitter board said they weren't interested in what Elon wanted to do. So he realized that to do what he wanted to do, he had to buy the entire company. So that's Elon's operating model. If he can't align the board, he won't work with that company. So that's step one. So people talk about, how do you get an agile transformation to succeed, or any culture change? Well, Elon's model is you have to have an aligned owning group who wants to help make true what you want to make true. After that, he creates a 1,000-year goal for the company. And this is how Elon thinks. And I think this is why many people don't realize it. The Musk companies are all the most financially successful companies in the world in their category. SpaceX had more launches this year, 2022, than any other group on planet Earth. China is the number 2 launching group. SpaceX, one company, is number 1. And an entire country is the second. And it's way more than any other country. SpaceX is far and away the most profitable, prolific, and cost-effective aerospace company on planet Earth. The same is true for Tesla. Tesla's worth 2.5 times as much as Toyota right now. And Tesla's at a low value point right now. Tesla's at a historic low value point, and there's still 2.5 times more cash in it than all of Toyota, which is larger than any auto company in all of Germany. Neuralink is the highest valued company of its type. Boring Company is. Elon has repeatedly 6 times now made the most profitable company in the world of its type. And how he does it is with a 1,000-year goal. For SpaceX, the 1,000-year goal is spread the light of consciousness out among the stars. For Tesla, the 1,000-year goal is transition all of humanity to sustainable energy. For the Boring Company, the 1,000-year goal is save humanity or civilization from soul-crushing traffic. For Twitter, Elon said it's not social advertising, which is what the previous owners had said Twitter was, and what many of the employees thought Twitter should be. So a lot of employees got angry when Elon changed the goal. They were happy with the goal being social advertising. Elon changed the goal of Twitter to democracy. That made a lot of the engineers, designers, UX people, agilists really upset. Like, I'm not in this company for democracy. What are you doing? And Elon said, we're all going to work 12-hour days because we're doing something really important. We're going to crush it. We're going to actually make beautiful democracy through this digital platform. And a lot of people got really freaked out. And you can see the fallout of that in the news last week, the week before, a little less right now, but still a lot. Once Elon sets the 1,000-year goal, then Elon implements digital self-management. He creates an automated KPI for something that contributes to that goal. For Tesla, it's how much does it cost to create a car that sells as fast as Tesla can manufacture cars. So what's the cost to produce a Model 3 or a Model Y? And that car has to be the best-selling car of its type, which happened. Some of you saw in September, the Tesla Model Y was the #1 selling car in Germany of any type, gasoline, diesel, anything. The Tesla Model Y was the highest selling car in Germany. And it was also rated the safest car in Europe by the NCAP. It was also rated the safest car in America. So these cars have to be as good as they can, in some cases best, and in the metrics I mentioned, they're at the top. And then they need to keep dropping in cost. So that profit margin is then put back into increasing how many cars are made, because the 1,000-year goal is not make the investors rich. The 1,000-year goal is transition the world to sustainable energy. Then for SpaceX, the digital self-management is cost per kilogram into low Earth orbit. And that ruthless focus on engineering has meant SpaceX is the lowest cost launch provider into orbit, and actually by an order of magnitude now. There's no more cost-effective way to get into orbit than SpaceX, no matter what country you're in, no matter if you're military or civilian. It's a decimal point better financially to ride on SpaceX than anyone else. Elon then relaunches the company around that automatically measured KPI. And it's brutal. I loved working for Elon Musk. It was also really tough. You are a bullet and the company is a gun, and you are being shot at this goal, at the digital self-management. It's your job to have as much fun as you can and enjoy it as much as you can and generate extraordinary levels of results. And there's truly nothing in your way. How can I say this? It's kind of like you're a little kid and there's all this candy around you and all the adults are saying, eat more. It's really easy to burn out. I mean, if you like engineering, if you like solving interesting problems with some of the most fascinating people, I think, in the world, and definitely the best AI and tools, it's really hard to stop having so much fun in the company. So it's definitely not that I didn't love it. I've never had as much fun at work. It's that I had no energy left to do anything else. You only work 3 days a week. You have 4 days off. And the next week you work 3 days a week, and then you have 4 days a week, and then you have 3 days off. So you only work 36 hours a week, 40 on average. So there's plenty of downtime, but you need to spend that downtime recovering, like resting, eating well, exercising, like a professional athlete would. I wanted to go camping. I had a 4-day weekend. I wanted to go to California's Yosemite, go camping, go rock climbing. So I came back to work the next week already tired from my 4 days off. Huge mistake. Working in a must company is like being a marathoner or maybe even an ultra marathoner. You have to return to work fully rested and refreshed. Your off-work hobbies need to be preparing to come back to work. Now, it's impossibly fun, and that's the problem. People aren't really pushing you. You just have tools to make a difference in the world right now. We would do 3 years worth of work for a traditional company in a day, every day. I'll try to give an example of that, but first, I'll conclude this story. After the company is relaunched into hardcore engineering around improving that KPI, that digital self-management, then everyone is asked to do your chores every day. Do your chores means you do the work that no one wants to do, and you do it every day. And everyone is asked to do that. Part of doing your chores is finding anyone who's not doing their chores and helping them. If they don't accept your help and intentionally sub-optimize the company, they don't work. Basically, if you have dead weight in the company and you try to help them and they decline your help, then you report them to HR. It's, how can I say it? I actually think this is what made the psychological safety so high. It doesn't sound like it. Maybe I'm using the wrong words, but what it means is, you know, from the minute you're hired, your job is to not tolerate anything but awesome. And if you find people who've given up, you need to help them. And if they intentionally don't re-engage, this isn't the place for them. Maybe the best analogy I've got for this is maybe like the World Cup games that are going on now. The soccer, the football. If you were on one of these top teams and you just stopped showing up to practice, that team would say you're not on the team anymore. Or if you started showing up for practice, but you weren't playing really well, you weren't practicing hard with intention, and you're in a top level team, and you want to be in a top level team, but you're not playing very well. And in fact, when other people try to help you, try to coach you, you say, no, I don't want your coaching. You'd be put on the bench or eventually asked to leave the team. I think it's like that. The must companies are the professional sport of their business type. SpaceX is the professional sport of aerospace. Tesla is the professional sport of energy companies. Neuralink is the professional sport of implanted medical devices. OpenAI is the professional sport of artificial intelligence development. And I think the intensity level is probably very similar. Well, where does that leave us at Barcamp? I mean, I retired, right? Now, I made a ton of money first. I basically became independently wealthy. So it worked out. But I did choose to leave the company. They said, please come back. And maybe someday I will. I really did love it. But where does that leave us at Barcamp? What I'm trying to do now is make a model. I call it Joe DX, DX for digital transformation. Joe for me, for my name. Then the model is how to get as close to the speed of the must companies as anyone could, maybe even faster, in a way that almost every human on earth could do sustainably. So not 12-hour shifts. Not everyone is cut out for that. Not everyone wants to be cut out for that. Not everyone has any wish to do that. Not everyone wants to play in a World Cup soccer team. Some people like to play soccer, football, but they like to play football casually after work with friends. So what do you do if you're really good at football, but you don't want that intensity? Well, Joe DX, I try to explain exactly what it means to work in a must company so people could recreate that if they wanted to. And then I try to offer alternatives that I hope are as fast and as high quality. For example, what works about the 12-hour shifts, our product development never stops. You don't own a product. When you finish at 5 p.m., you hand your tools, your laptop, your welding equipment, whatever it is you're using, you hand those to another group coming in. And the group is the same size. It's not a smaller shift. And from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m., that other group works. So when you come back at 5 a.m., you get different product back. Nothing waits for you. Nothing waits. That creates what XP and XM, Extreme Programming, Extreme Manufacturing, both recommend as shared ownership. You can't own anything. You're handing it off every day. It's impossible for something to wait on you. That's a good thing. That creates product development inertia. The products continue to be developed, whether you're there or not. Now, I think we can get some of that benefit by having 4 6-hour shifts, or even 12 2-hour shifts for people who have good, strong energy and want to play with some level of intensity for 2 hours a day. Yes, there are many more handoff points, and we Agilists know a lot of the data on why that's a bad thing. But in exchange, you have a fresh mob every 2 hours instead of every 12 hours, a fresh group, a fresh ensemble. It might make up for it in terms of innovation and speed. I'd really like to try it. That's part of JoDX that's experimental right now. I'll close with some data. Ted Malaska from SpaceX publicly posted on LinkedIn, someone from my old company interviewed today at SpaceX. They asked, what are the major differences between the two companies? Here was my answer. You know all those product managers, project managers, agile managers, and architects? Yeah, we don't have those. You know all those politics, product increment planning, telephone games, and long debates about nothing? Yeah, we don't have those. In short, we trust engineers and put them in front of the problem. The result is about 10 to 20 times more output per engineer, more ownership, and an increased feeling of meaning as the work is directly related to the outcome. Oh yeah, and we are going to Mars instead of optimizing for taking money from people. So there's that. I don't think you can work this intensely unless you actually believe it's worth that work is worth doing. So if you're doing it just to make someone else rich, I don't think it works. On his very first day on the job, Alton designed and printed a circuit board and sent it to manufacturing. He mused at the time that at most other companies, he probably would have not even had an IT account set up by the end of the first day. And also at Tesla, if you're at a stoplight and you just smash your foot to the floor and you spin the tires and eventually you get the car straightened down, that's kind of like the first day at Tesla. You literally were running as fast as you can run. It's exactly true. I've never seen a company that fast, where engineers design and send out for print new circuit boards on their first day. That's normal. Elon works in the factories. I just wanted to express my gratitude for CEO Elon Musk. From where I work, he came in and eliminated 80% of the problems we were having in about 20 minutes. It was amazing. He re-engineered processes and final product on the spot in real time. In completely cool fashion, he actually talked and listened to the workers on the line where the work is being done, and the tires hit the road. That same night, we blew away the record for the most production by a long shot. My coworkers and I were all giving high fives at the end of the shift. Now, most companies do something called lean, and part of lean states, well, part of Six Sigma anyway, you wouldn't have someone high skilled do low skilled work. That would be wasteful. At the Musk companies, your most highly skilled people do all work, no matter the work skill level. And one of the reasons why is how invigorating, how inspiring, and how exciting that is for everybody. As you can see in this example of Elon, actually here they say he talks and listens. Elon works the line. He does the jobs. And there's other quotes from other people than me about that. All right, Bar Camp. I'm thrilled to have given an overview of what I thought I learned. I really thought I was good at Agile hardware. I thought I was good at Agile software. And then I went into a Musk company. And you can't compete with Elon doing anything that I thought I knew before. Your company will just die. So what do we do? And I think the answer is, well, I'll call it Joe DX, whatever you want to call it. I think the answer is find something that's as fast or faster that is even more sustainable and even more fun and even more people want to do it. Thank you, everybody. You can find me at abiagile.com. I wrote a book. It's in German now. It's in 7 languages now. I'm most active on Twitter at Joe Justice. I'd be really happy if any of you would LinkedIn or Zing with me. Here's my general information. I've got classes coming up on this topic in January and April on the Europe time zone and America's time zone, and in Asia, I think also in April. Okay, I think I went over. Sorry about that.
No problem.
If there's any comment or question, I'd love to learn from the group.
Yeah. Okay, Joe. First of all, thanks a lot. That was super interesting. We might have some time. I hope. I know it's late where you are, but we might have time for a couple of questions. And for the time being, while people make up their mind what to ask, I wanted to give this brief comment. I was thinking all the time you talked, well, what if we don't have an Elon Musk, and what if I'm not the one to work for 12 hours? That's not my thing. And that's why I'm looking forward to going into details about Joe DX. Are there already any sources, or is your book about Joe DX, or how can we learn more about that?
I wrote my book. It's called Scrum Master just before joining Tesla. In fact, I pushed to finish it before joining so I could get what I had in my head out.
Yep.
And then I worked for Tesla, and it was better than anything I put in the book. So I added another chapter 21, and chapter 21 basically says, okay, ignore everything I wrote before. I don't want to like unpublish the book, but maybe it helps you understand now. And then I just bullet point list exactly what the Musk companies do. And it's actually a very short chapter. And I think it's the best chapter. So there's chapter 21, which is this stuff.
Great. Sebastian already put the book on our book frame, just to inform you. There's a question from Barbara. Could you talk about or repeat how health is handled in an Elon Musk company? How do you ensure sustainable pace? You know, we're a lot about sustainable pace in Agile. So how does that work? That people don't burn out and stuff.
There's maybe 2 real, honest ways to answer this. One is you work 3 days a week and then have 4 days off, and the next week you work 4 days and you have 3 days off, and those alternate. That helps a lot. I think that makes it sustainable if you recover during those other days. So if you want to work this way and you want to be in a company like this, I think that makes it sustainable. If you don't want to, it is still probably too intense, but I think it makes it possible, right? But then there's the other question. How do professional World Cup football players keep it sustainable? How do they do it? It's not like they don't do 3 practices a day. I mean, it's a really high level of play. And that's what the Musk companies are trying to be. So the other way to answer it is to simply call it like it is. They are trying to, I believe it's true. The Musk companies are trying to improve the world. I mean, Musk doesn't even own a house. He's definitely not doing it for a lavish lifestyle. He's one of the hardest working people I've ever seen. And he's truly trying to transition the world to sustainable energy, help improve the environment. Now, you might not believe that, and that's okay. But the mission is really exciting for people who do believe in it. And so you'd want to play at your top, right? So there's 2 ways to answer that. One is there are sustainable pace practices, and they mostly have to do with downtime, that you have 4 days off and then 3 days off the next week. Then the other angle is well, what if you want to play highly intensely, like a World Cup footballer? And then the Musk companies are a good place to go if you want to do that.
We have two more questions. The first one, the AI management system sounds crazy, says Sebastian. Could you give us some details how AI leads people at Tesla? How does
Okay,
that
this part is amazing.
Okay.
This is really cool. No joke. Anytime you wait on anything, mobs self-organize around how can we make that never happen again. And there's a lot of really good artificial intelligence code and electronics, processing, cameras, sensors available, technology stacks to use. And for example, anytime you wait on a manager for answering a question or approving something, like a simple example, like vacation is now an okay time for me to take vacation. People mob on that immediately and make an app, the May I Have Vacation app. And that analyzes who's working where. It takes a lot of guesses. It's definitely not perfect. The goal is not for it to be perfect initially, or else we'd wait forever. Especially artificial intelligence tools, they improve as you use them, as they generate more of their own data set, right? So you want to start using it early. So you start using it as soon as the tool is not worse than the human. As soon as the number of complaints about, I should have gotten vacation approved and it wasn't, as soon as that number of complaints for the group using the AI tool is not higher than the group still talking to humans to ask for vacation, that tool is automatically rolled out to everybody. Don't ever ask a human this question again. Ask the app. And that also generates more training data for the app, which improves its quality and it compounds. That is done for every wait state, relentlessly. So if you ask, can I buy this robot? There's an app for, can I buy this? You don't ask a human, can you buy something? It's called Auto Bidder. And Auto Bidder helps you source from suppliers that it believes to be ethical. Auto Bidder helps you get the best price it thinks, and it's not perfect. The goal is for it to not be worse than humans and for it to be instant. Zero waiting, like 5 seconds or less. And typically it's effectively instant. And because of that, there's not one big manager AI. There's not this cyber queen running on Starlink in space. Not yet anyway. Instead, it's hundreds of apps, and each app answers a particular type of question or a group of questions that are very similar. And you navigate those actually pretty easily on your phone. Almost all the software in the Musk companies is written in-house, almost all of it. They don't use Salesforce, they don't use any SAP, none of that. And it's not that they don't want to, it's that it's simply faster. Like, have you ever tried to set up SAP or do a SAP uplift? It's a complicated and involved process with many humans. The Musk companies don't have time for that. They want 0 clicks, not 1 click, 0. Like it should anticipate what you want and be handing you that information. And that's what the tools in the Musk companies aspire to do. And many of them do that by now. I mean, they started off awful and now they're great for the most part. So the goal is to have 100% of staff be engineers on the product, directly improving it every day. So you don't want anyone in a manager position. You don't want anyone in a leader. You don't want anyone in a meeting unless it's a working meeting, period. They're not quite at 100%, but they're really near. And that makes the financial effectiveness of the company really high.
Great. The next question by Cordelia. Do the Musk companies have data on mental health of children whose parents are Musk co-workers, work 12-hour shifts, use non-work time to recover? Yeah, you're laughing. It might be a serious question. What do you think?
It's a super serious question. It's an incredibly serious question. So I'd already decided to retire from the Musk companies. I'd made a bunch of money on stock. Stock price went up 800% during the time I worked at Tesla. And I had a lot of Tesla stock. So I bought a condo in Hawaii and I basically retired. But then I realized I'm a workaholic. I am. I'm happier when I'm working intensely, I realize. So I'm back in it. I'm actually involved in some Tesla suppliers now, aftermarket. But the reason I left on the date I did is it was to take my son camping, to try to be what I thought is a good parent on my son's 3rd birthday. So I'd asked that app, which is not perfect, but is actually very good. I asked the app, can I have time off? It's my son's birthday. And the app told me no. So I asked it again, and the answer kept being no. I said, well, I was going to retire soon anyway. Okay, I'll do it now. So I laughed because that's the reason I left the company. It's because it's not awesome to be a parent in the Musk company.
Yeah.
But then the other half of that question is, what's it like to be the child of a pro football player, soccer player in the World Cup right now? I mean, they're not seeing mama or papa right now either. They're seeing them from the stands. They're cheering. They're excited. Hopefully their parent is doing what their parent loves, their caregiver. It's like that.
I see.
So, I mean, unless we're going to vilify all intense work and like never watch the World Cup or whatever, I don't think we can say this is a approach that should never be allowed. But I think there definitely should be other alternatives. If this is the only way we can work and be competitive, I think that's a problem, which is part of why I'm passionate about JoDX.
Yep.
But that said, I think this type of work should exist. Like, we like to see athletes play at a very high level. I think we might want to see software engineers perform at a very high level too when they want to.
Cool. Thank you. A question by Frank. It's specific about playing games in groups. You showed us stuff in the beginning. There must be chaos now and then during playing, he says. Do you have a go-to intervention to help playing groups through situations of chaos? What do you do when there is chaos?
This is something that I've been experimenting with for years. And one of the things I think I did actually help with in the Musk companies, and the Musk companies do very well. What they do is they set ground rules before you get self-organization. And by watching each other play these self-organization games and these work games, the ground rules are refined and improved. Well, the Musk companies have been doing this since 2006. They have really good ground rules now. There's 15 of them, only 15. And if you don't break those 15 ground rules, you don't get chaos. You can have basically no management, 110,000 people self-organizing, and you don't get chaos. Now, if someone starts, or many people start breaking one or more of the 15 rules, part of doing your chores is to help them. And if they intentionally continue, that would sabotage the company. That would create chaos. So that's when you do, if it's intentional, they're aware they're breaking the rules, you've offered to help them, they say no, and they keep doing it, that will sabotage the company. That is when you report someone to human resources, which are Agile people operations.
Yep. A question about people joining the company, new employees. How do you get, by Jens, how do you get them educated on this culture, its values? How do you do that quickly?
Yeah, that's actually connected to the question before. So those ground rules are one of the first things you're given. There's a 4-hour onboarding for every employee. That's it, 4 hours for anyone in the whole company. That's all you get. You have 4 hours of orientation. And the largest part of it is those 15 rules. And you're asked, do you agree to these? If no, you probably should find a job somewhere else. We don't mean to sound harsh, but that's just the way it is. This is our culture. These are the 15 rules, and you get them right at the beginning. So you know what you're getting into, and you decide, do you want to do it or not? I mean, they're not crazy. There are things like respect for people and operate with trust, where they've been posted. They're called the anti-handbook handbook. And I review them in my course, so you can read them, and then I'll review them and show how they're used if we do the course together. But it's one and the same. Those ground rules are the culture. They're given right at the beginning, and they're visible everywhere forever after, every time you're in the company, including on your phone. And that's what prevents chaos. Now, the previous question, maybe I avoided it unintentionally. It was also what interventions are used. And I said, interventions aren't needed because you have these ground rules. Well, there's still situations where interventions are needed, and that's the do your chores, right? So what intervention tools worked? Every coaching skill we as an Agilists have ever used is what you need to use for an intervention in a company like that, because it's moving really fast. And hardware too. It's not just people sitting at keyboards. I mean, there's robots, there's trucks, there's, how can I even explain it? It is moving, and it's moving quickly, and there's sparks and there's noise, and there's people writing software in there, right? I mean, there's not like a separate cute office where people write software. There's one set of huge buildings with sparks and noise and robots, and that's where you're writing software also, or drawing CAD or unloading trucks or whatever you're doing. So everyone has that work environment. There's not like a separate special group of people that has a beautiful quiet office. There is no beautiful quiet office. So to do an intervention in that type of atmosphere, you're going to do your best mentoring, you're going to do your best training, you're going to do your best listening. Any coaching stance you've ever practiced, you will rotate through all of those multiple times a day, maybe multiple times a minute, as you're working with many mobs. So I hope I gave a more useful answer to the previous question as well now.
Thank you very much. Katja asked what the 15 ground rules are. I think you mentioned they are in the anti-handbook handbook, and I think I saw that online. Is that public? Can everybody see that? Or maybe I'm
it's been not published by Tesla, but another former employee, not me,
okay.
Leaked it.
I see.
And Musk companies have never taken it down. So it's actually the first of the 12 sections of the course. I'll show it to you right now. Anti-handbook. Here is the link.
Great.
It's Scribd. It's not hosted by me. It's hosted by Scribd. And what I do in the course, and especially if I do private workshops where companies really want to change, their leadership group wants to reflect on this, I do a retrospective where they rank themselves on a score of 1 to 10 of each of these 15 rules. And it doesn't mean they have to want each of these rules. Their ambitions don't need to be the same as a Musk company. I don't think any of our ambitions need to be the same as Tesla or SpaceX or Neuralink. But ranking the company we do have on these same scores, these same 15 rules, I think is very enlightening and lets us be intentional about the company we want to be part of now, right? But I don't think you have to copy. I don't think your goal is to get a 10 on all 15 rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
You pick which apply to you. But they're summarized here as trust, communication, job duties, goals and feedback, safety, attendance, tardiness, sick days, vacations, no call, no show, outside employment, stupid stuff, fun, moral of the story, and resolving concerns. It's 4 pages altogether. So these are topic headers.
Yeah.
Actually, reading that 4-page document would give you all those 15 rules.
Great. Thanks for the link. Last question by Sebastian. He's fascinated by this thing you told us, the handover between mobs or groups or people, product handover. And how does that work? Because you have complex products, and how does the handover, the handshake work so that people are onboarded instantly?
Now, this is part of the 12-hour workday that I think will be difficult to replicate if you don't do 12 hours. If you do 4 6 hours, I think it might be harder to replicate. Because it's a 12-hour shift, what happens, at least for me, is I would typically come in at 4 a.m. And I would typically stay until 7 p.m. So I'd stay a little before to participate in the previous mob or group, and then a little bit after to have overlap with the second group and to take notes and journal and try to process what happened that day. When I would then leave at about 7 p.m. often, I'd basically just make dinner or eat dinner out or whatever I'd eat, and then I'd go to bed, shower and go to bed. And then I'd get up, shower again, eat breakfast and go in for my 3 days on, right? So there's no other time. What happened for me, and and everyone else I talk to, is you do all of this deep thinking while you're sleeping. So many tricky solutions emerge while you're sleeping. I think this is something that humans are especially good at doing. If you've been immersed in something all day, you process it while you sleep. I would journal before going to bed, and then I would open that journal again before I got in the shower, like first thing as I was getting out of bed. And I would typically have a flood of deeper understanding, because you don't have time for deep thinking in a mob. You have this group work, this ensemble feeling. It's very fast. You get exposed to a tremendous amount of information very quickly, which is good for deep thinking. But then you need time to do that deep thinking. And it happens while you sleep. Well, what that means is now you're full of all this additional processed information, but whatever you were working on is now 12 hours different. And a lot. I mean, there's hundreds of people mobbing and swarming on that thing for 12 hours, whatever it was. The mobs and swarms are typically 3, 4, or 5 people, but there's many of them and working on parallel pieces of these things. They change really fast. So you come in and you've had all these interesting ideas, and then you have to match them against your new reality every day. And that, I think, trains the mind like many athletes would train muscles. And you jump in, you have all these fresh ideas, some of which no longer apply. The thing you're working on has changed, but some of them still do. And then you may have an overlap time with some or all of the people from the previous group, especially if you did come in an hour early, like I often did. And net effect, what seems to happen is the handoff is typically seamless, like seconds, truly seconds. You then tag in, take the tool, the robot, the laptop, whatever it is, and go. And you've got this whole group around you, so you're checking each other and cheering for each other. Yeah, typically seconds, definitely less than a minute.
Great. So thank you so much for being with us in the middle of the night. I hope that you are not too excited and can go to sleep now. It was great having you here. It's super interesting. If we want to learn more about JoDX, I guess we can go to your website and you will have updates there, right? Because this sounds really interesting. Because I would love to do that, but not in 12-hour shifts. There is a ton of gratitude in the chat if you happen to see that. Thanks a lot for being here, and talk to you soon. Bye, Joe. Thank you.